Acid attacks have been happening in the UK for 200 years, so why are we only talking about them now? 10 years ago, when I was researching for my film Shrouded, I spoke to many women who had chosen to wear the niqab as a result of acid attacks. Acid attacks happen across the world, but impact on women disproportionately, especially Asian women. NHS hospitals recorded 144 assaults between 2011 and 2012, involving corrosive substances including petrol, bleach and kerosene. In 2013, The Telegraph reported a threefold increase in acid attacks in 6 years. In September 2015, The Guardian reported that acid attacks admissions had almost doubled over the previous 10 years. In the last year, London has seen a high rise in acid attacks. Tower Hamlets, in particular, has seen a spate of acid attacks in recent times. And to talk to me about this is Jaf Shah, the Director of Acid Survivors Trust International, and Jabed Hussain, a victim of an acid attack. I'm going to ask Jaf first of all, what's your organisation, what does it do, where are you based, and the context of what you think has given the rise to acid attacks in London?
Well, Acid Survivors Trust International is actually based in Tower Hamlets, and we've been based here for at least 3 or 4 years. We were set up approximately 12 years ago to help address acid violence attacks in Bangladesh. And we helped to set up a foundation in Bangladesh to deal with acid attacks. And as it became aware that attacks were occurring in other countries, we helped to set up organisations in Pakistan, Nepal, India and Cambodia. And what we focused on, and what our local partners focus on, is to end acid violence and to support survivors medically, legally, and to ensure that they have appropriate psychological and rehabilitation support.
Just on the fact that you're based in Tower Hamlets, what I'd like to know is, since we've had so many incidents in Tower Hamlets and across London, have you been contacted by victims? Have you been contacted by the media and the kind of responses you've been giving out?
I get occasional inquiries from survivors, but predominantly much of the interest recently has come from the media. From approximately 7 weeks ago when Reshma Khan and her cousin were attacked, and then obviously the spate of attacks that involved Jabed as one of the victims a week after Reshma and her cousin's attack. So the media interest increased dramatically as a result of that. But as you correctly pointed out, actually acid attacks had been rising steadily for the last 5 or 6 years. But it's the recent spate of attacks that have suddenly generated a lot of media interest.
Okay, I just want to ask Jabed to explain what happened on the night that you were attacked.
Well, I was just coming back from work and similar as usual, like everyone. And
what's your work though, if you could?
I work for Uber Eats, where we deliver the food. I was just coming home and suddenly someone threw acid on me when I was stopped in traffic. Luckily I was wearing helmet, and sometimes there are a lot of water helped by my fellow colleagues in the police as well. The ambulance from sometimes. And the main thing, I was wearing helmet, so that's how I saved myself.
That protected you?
That protected me.
And was it someone who just came out of nowhere and just sprayed you, or just?
Yeah, someone came just like, I didn't even know someone coming behind me or right or left, and as soon as they heard the sound of water and look at left, and I saw they literally just next to me.
Why do you think you were targeted?
Well, I don't know, because there are a lot of questions I have to answer. Because I ask myself, if you want to, if anyone want to rob my bike or rob me, he's got a lot of options. Why you have to choose acid and why my face? That's my question. I mean, someone don't like my face, or someone wanted to destroy my face.
So do you think there's a difference between using acid and a knife crime, and a knife in an attack?
No, knife crime is totally different. If anyone said knife crime and acid attack is same, but I'm not agree with that, because knife crime is like someone stabbed you and you can hide it, but acid on your face, you can't hide it until you die. I mean, you need to carry it until you die.
Yeah.
So
I actually really agree with you, because some of the victims that I came across in the many years that I've come across victims of an acid attack, it's never been about killing or intentionally killing someone. It's about distorting someone's face and their physical appearance as well. So
Exactly.
you are right about that.
exactly.
But as I know that you're the chair of your union, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm the president of Workers' Union. Yeah.
How do the other drivers feel? The riders?
Well, other drivers, they are scared to get back to work, and they're scared to. Some of them, they used to work till 1 p.m., 1 a.m., but they stopped doing it now because they're working till 10 p.m. And some of them, they start early and finish early and go home. And some of the places, they don't go there. If they receive any order, they see like the place you have to go, you just reject this order.
It's impacting on their work life, isn't
Yeah.
it? And how do you, after you've gone through this, what effects has it had on you just going out to work now?
Well, obviously, because I don't know, something wrong with me, because I feel like I'm scared to go out myself. I'm scared to speak to the people. I'm scared to go going anywhere where I don't know. And if I see any moped passing by, and I'll get scared. Or if I don't trust anyone.
Why do you think there's been a spate of rise in acid attacks, in particularly in London?
Well, basically, it could be, there are so many reasons. I don't know what exactly it is, but there is something, probably because of racist stuff, probably Islamophobia, could be motorbike theft, could be so many reasons, but I don't know what is exactly what happened. But there are a lot of weakness from the politician. I think the politician should have taken action a long time ago when I invited local mayor and a lot of MPs. I invited them. They should have taken action. They should have speak up that time, because it's going over the limit now.
Okay.
So they need to stand up before it goes over the limit.
I'm going to come back to you, Jaf. What I want to know is, you've just heard the victim side of the story and what's going on and what he's been going through. What do you think you can do as an organisation, and what actions have you been taking in order to address the spate of acid attacks in this country?
Well, I became aware of a number of attacks increasing in the UK around 2013. And when I commissioned a study to look at laws that are specific to preventing acid attacks, I made sure we included the UK, because I already noticed that the numbers in hospital admissions had increased. So we released a study around 3 years ago almost, looking at different laws in 4 different countries, including the UK. And the report highlighted weaknesses in UK legislation, in that there is a process of deregulation of acid, which meant acid was easily available. There's no age restriction, there's no licensing system, you can pay cash. So for me, that was of concern, and I've been sharing and raising awareness about the report.
What's the report called?
It's called Justice, What Justice? Because one of the key things I've discovered, having met many survivors in many different countries, is that many survivors don't feel a sense of closure through the fact that many of the perpetrators remain free, and the fear of reprisal of another attack is there. So the sense of justice, the perpetrator being caught and being sentenced, is an important part for many survivors to move forward, to know that they don't have to fear that individual. And that prompted because I met a survivor in Cambodia who lived in the slums, and she was blind in both eyes. She had a 7-year-old daughter. Her daughter was heavily scarred, and she said that she lived in fear because the person who attacked her and her daughter, which was her husband, ran off after attacking them both. And he ran to France and was never caught. And she said to me, it's like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know. He's still out there somewhere. So that kind of, pushed me to think, well, there needs to be more about this subject. We need to understand why it is that there isn't sufficient levels of justice for survivors, because very few cases actually reach successful prosecution. In the UK, so far, only a quarter of cases reach court. So that means there's 3/4 of cases that just aren't reaching court. So there's lots of survivors out there who are not receiving any justice.
I know Resham Khan launched the petition calling on for the sale of acid, and also there was the other petition calling on the Home Secretary to look at the laws in this country as well. And subsequently, the CPS then began to look at the laws as well. Do you think there has been some changes that have come forward in the UK?
Yes. Well, I actually met with representatives from the Home Office a year and a half ago, and gave them a copy of the report.
Oh, so they were already aware of your report?
So people within the strategic unit within the Home Office were aware of the report, yes.
Right.
So the weaknesses were there and have been known for a while. Unfortunately, it's taken a long time to act, and it's taken a spate, an increase in the number of attacks.
And victims.
Yeah, exactly. As a consequence of these attacks, for the government to really take action. So what's happened now is that the Home Secretary approximately 6 weeks ago released a statement which indicated very strongly that there will be a review of sentencing of perpetrators, and critically more research in the problem, because I think that's a big issue. We don't really fully understand the problem as it exists in the UK. And thirdly, an acknowledgement that there needs to be regulation. And that's the key findings of our report. There needs to be tighter regulations around the control of the sale of acid. There needs to be a licensing system. There needs to be substances that contain far less corrosive elements. There needs to be an age restriction. And there also needs to be an offence charged for carrying concentrated acid without a licence.
I think that's the CPS, Alison Saunders, the director there, was looking at that as well, the intention of carrying. It's not just about going out there and throwing the acid. If you're caught carrying it, they will now look at you heavily.
Well, but part of the problem is previously, the onus has been on the police to prove intent.
That's right.
And that's clearly problematic. It's very difficult to prove intent. But so now the onus very much is, well, you don't have a licence, so you shouldn't be carrying this. Correct. So that makes it easier for the police.
The only other aspect I wanted to touch upon is that more and more young people, it seems, are carrying this as a weapon of choice. But in actual fact, we also see burglaries being carried out and acid being used in those burglaries. The incident in Ilford of the older woman who was attacked in her home as well. Do you think there needs to be a little bit more research around this, far more research, or some sort of national scale research? Yeah,
well, I've made a whole series of recommendations actually to the Home Office, to the Shadow Home Secretary.
Have you met with
Yes.
the Home Secretary?
Yes, I've met with Amber Rudd, the Home Secretary. I've met with Diane Abbott. And I've also met with MPs whose constituencies are directly affected.
Stephen Tim.
Sorry, I've been in communication with his office and Lynn Brown's office in Newark.
Okay.
And I've made the same sort of recommendations. One is, in the short term, the government can introduce tighter controls on the sale of acid, limit the availability, age restrictions, prevent cash sales, to do more research. We really need to understand who are the perpetrators, what are their motivations behind the attacks, what corrosive substances are they using, what are the demographics, the ethnicity of both the victims and the perpetrators, and which parts of the UK and London are most affected. Once you compile that intelligence, then you can formulate a more effective targeted response. So that means you can target those areas or communities that are most affected, then replicate the achievements to other areas. So I think the research is critical in terms of defining long-term strategies. But what we do know is that here in the UK, it's particularly young men or men attacking other men. So 2/3 of cases are men on men. Globally, it's men on women. So the majority of victims globally are women. but perpetrators are men. So what we know in both cases is that the vast majority of perpetrators are men. So what we need to do is actually run educational programs with young boys in schools, in colleges, through youth clubs, to educate around the issues around violence. Because then we can address acid violence, and we can also help address other forms of violence.
Yeah. Thank you. Can I, Jabed, I know after you became a victim, you became a survivor, but now you've become a campaigner. What are the things that you've been doing as someone who's been a victim of acid attack to make people and politicians aware of the risk of acid attacks, the problems that are faced by victims of acid attacks?
Yeah, after my incident happens, we had a few demonstrations, we had a few meetings, and we keep doing it as a part of campaigns. I'm going to Berlin as well, mayor office of Berlin, and
you've been invited.
Yeah, and I'm going so many other places as well, and I'm campaigning against it for the tougher sentence everywhere, because it's harms to everyone. It's kind of like the place you can hide it, you need to carry it. Mm-hmm. And this is really painful. So far I know that's really painful. And I had this experience, so this way I just wanted to let everyone know these things happening, and I need to explain what actually you should have do, like on first days, what to do is if anything happens. There is a water needed, because you need a lot of water. Yeah. For your face, even for your eyes. That's how I could have saved my face probably. And first thing, there was a helmet that
protected you.
Yeah, that protected me. So probably somebody walking through, probably he's not wearing any helmet or not covered with anything, but he or she the most sufferer, because the acid directly on the face, and can't even do anything, and probably can't manage to get some water. So first thing is you need to do is like put a lot of water on you if anything happens. And our campaign should be not just this. Our campaign is against the moped crimes in UK, and moped gangs. That's how they get access to the rest of the crimes, like stealing bike and doing robbery on the street, acid. Throwing acid to the people's face, and there are a lot of crimes they're doing it with the moped. So our protest is against the moped crimes now. Okay. Because if we stop doing the moped crimes, and we just wanted to let all the politicians know, because this is their job to go to the parliament and speak up about it. If you just let it go everything now, then we have to let it go a lot of crimes. So it's enough is enough now. They need to stop now.
Yeah. There was one thing I also wanted to ask you. You're going to speak in Berlin, but have you got another demonstration tomorrow?
Yeah, we have another demonstration taking place tomorrow from the Regent Park to the Parliament Square, and we're just going to go all over London. So that would be huge demonstration, like about 400, 500 drivers. They're coming all over UK anyway. They're joining with us and support me. Support workers union as well, support other groups as well. So not just motorbikes, there are a lot of community people, they're coming and joining with us as well.
Okay, so the demonstration is on Saturday, the 9th of September.
9th of September at 10:30 in front of Regent Park.
Okay.
So this is where that is going to take place.
I'm going to just catch on your point about putting water on people and making sure that water is, continuously put on, so to dilute the acid and to prevent from harm. Because I know, Jaf, there is I think, was it the NHS that launched something called WASH?
Yeah.
If you could explain to me what it is. I did read a little bit about it, about what to do in case you come across someone who has been attacked by acid, or you yourself are a victim of acid.
Well, I think, as Jabed said, the most critical thing is to really have continually running clean water to rinse off the acid. And it has to happen ideally for at least half an hour. Because depending on the concentration and the strength of the acid, the damage can be pretty immediate. So you really need to make sure all the acid's rinsed off, and obviously around the eyes, because the face is targeted. The issue of potential blindness is there. And it's also about removing the main items of clothing that might be containing quite a bit of acid, So I think the critical thing is water, really, continuous water for at least 30 minutes, because if you do that, then you minimize the risks of long-term permanent injuries.
When water was put on you, Jabed, how long did you have the water rinsing on yourself? Because Jaf is
The amount of water was like about 10 times 3 liters bottles. So it's kind of like I've done shower about 3 times. So they keep putting on me. There was freezing
it cold water?
There was freezing as well, and they're putting a lot of water on me. And most of the water they're putting on my eyes to make sure my eyes is saved. And then they put a lot of water on top of me. So just took off my shirt and everything, hoodie and everything. But they put a lot of water on me. I mean, it's 10 times 3 liter bottles.
I mean, it just shows the kind of things that you have to do. You have to have water near you. But do you know which substance was used against you?
Well, first of all, because I am saved. My face is saved. And second thing is like the water. The main thing was the water. So the water washed up everything.
No, I'm just asking, later on, did the police find out what type of substance was used on you in that attack?
There was a saying like, it's kind of like bleach or something. There's a dangerous bleach. They were saying they used it. And then it's kind of like my helmet is kind of melted, and my hoodie was different colors. My helmet is fully melted. Yeah. So
and so imagine if that was on your skin.
Yeah, if that would be on my screen, then that would be different issues. They didn't let me see that because they said I might be scared or something if I see that, and they took it away. But that danger, that was.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say that's kind of bleach, and we can't make it that easy. Like if I say like it's bleach, probably we're going to think something not danger.
Yeah.
But that's really danger. I mean,
it was dangerous and very concentrated substance.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Jaf, I know this week you've launched your new educational film out there. It's a video film. It's an awareness program of the history of acid attacks. Tell me a little bit about it, and then we'll go to have a look at it.
Basically, what kind of inspired me to commission this piece of work was that I was on a radio show with a politician who shall remain nameless. And in the radio show, we were talking about acid attacks, and he said the problem was imported from Pakistan. And I corrected him and said, no, actually, acid attacks started in the UK 200 years ago. Absolutely. And Pakistan didn't come into being until 1947. Right. So logically, that doesn't make any sense. But what's become apparent since then is that there's lots of misinformation being spread, particularly on the internet, around acid violence and its links to immigrants or Muslims or Pakistanis, etc. And the purpose of this film, this video, is to highlight that actually acid violence isn't restricted to any particular culture or religion. It's a global problem. It affects many different communities and many different faiths or non-faiths. And so
we are potentially all victims.
Yeah, exactly. So I was becoming quite worried that it was being compartmentalized and being told that it's one group of people who are committing these attacks. So the purpose is to educate and to better understand the problem and also the solutions to the problem.
We're going to just have a look at this short film as well, and it's a very important film. I hope people share it as well. That was a very good and short and brief history about acid attacks, and particularly how it evolved from Britain over to other countries as well. But in particular, the Industrial Revolution and the factories that operated and used acid attacks. Just on a couple of lines on that, Jaf, how did it then, the way it exported out to different countries?
Yeah, well, basically, during the Industrial Revolution, sulfuric acid was manufactured in vast quantities to treat metals, cotton.
In the UK?
In the UK. And I think most of the earliest attacks were in parts of London and in Glasgow, because those areas actually had plants that were manufacturing acid, which meant it was easily available. And what's kind of happened is that even 200 years later, there's a direct correlation between industry and acid violence. So if you go to the Punjab in Pakistan, that one province constitutes the vast majority of attacks that are committed in Pakistan. And the reason why is that there's a large cotton industry in the Punjab which uses vast quantities of acid to treat cotton. So, and that pattern's replicated in other countries.
Right.
So we wanted to highlight those links. And in fact, what we plan to do is release a study looking at the supply chains of acid from one country to another, hopefully in the next 6 weeks, end of October, beginning of November. And that's a quick plug.
Thank you. Good. Just on one last note from you, Jabed Hussain, tell the public, tell people what you would like to see in Tower Hamlets, and how we can go forward to make sure that we address acid attacks in this borough, across London and in this country.
Basically, I just wanted to mention all the public in Tower Hamlets, the citizen of Tower Hamlets. There are a lot of things happening behind that, because you need to get aware of it. We need to let people know. We need to take action against it. We need to, there are a lot of link on it. I mean, if they do with the bike, they will do the acid now, they will do something else later on. So we need to take action now before they do something else. If you just let it go, we have to let it go. A lot of crimes. If you just stop them, I'm definitely sure if you stop the motorbike crimes and motorbike theft, the 40-50% the crimes will stop now, because we're doing protest against it. We need your help as well. We need your support as well. And if you see anything happening, you need to call police immediately. And if you see any moped crimes or anything, just don't ignore it, and just don't get away with it. Don't ignore it. Just call police and take action straight away.
Okay.
So this is what they need to do, and I hope we're doing demonstration. You can come and join with us against this, because that's not just acid attack. There are a lot of crimes behind it. Yeah. So don't think like this delivery drivers matter. It's matter for everyone. Matter for the public who's walking on the street and who's going to work, who's coming back from work, who's taking their family to school and coming back from school. There are a lot of crimes, because we need to say enough is enough.
Thank you very much, Jabed, and also to Jaf for coming here and joining me to talk about acid attacks. And to viewers who are looking at this and watching this, it's really very important that you ensure people, or if you know of anyone, that you report these crimes, that you support victims of acid attacks, and also for the future that we look forward to changing regulation in this country, making sure that the sale of acid is regulated, that we work with our young people, with all people in the community to keep them safe from harm.